your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to And I Quote, the weekly show where we introduce you to content creators of all shapes and sizes that join us from many and all corners of the nerd universe. My name is Ryan. I am your host, and our guest on this particular episode of And I Quote is someone who is used to using old school colloquialisms. That's a word I have not heard in 25 plus years, maybe even longer. I'm not sure, but hey, we're all family around here. Please welcome the woman in charge of KeyLime Creations, indie artist Keely Imai. Keely, welcome to the program. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, if you have any questions for Keely as we go throughout the course of this episode, please let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Our producers are going to be monitoring it as we go throughout the course of this show. And also, don't forget to like and share this episode with all of your closest friends because they're going to like the way they look after watching or listening to this episode of And I Quote. I guarantee it. But with that being said, Keely, what were some of your favorite movies or TV series growing up?
Well, how far back do you want me to go?
As far back as you want. It doesn't matter. Age is just a number.
Well, so I'm a child of the 90s, but I had a fair amount of like 80s sprinkled in there. So, everything from some of your old school stuff like Transformers, My Little Pony, and then a bunch of the 90s shows that showed up on Disney. Movie wise, again, a lot of influence from 80s and 90s, Disney especially, but old things like Rankin Bass animated movies like Flight of Dragons, and The Hobbit, The Last Unicorn, are huge influences on just a lot of my work today. But yeah, Disney, huge influence on that. And yeah, I'm trying to think like if there was anything else super, super formative. Anything to do with dragons, pretty much was my thing.
I have a feeling you're part of the How to Train Your Dragon fan club.
Yes. If there is an official fan club, like I should have a badge somewhere, but no, Toothless was awesome, and the design work they did on those dragons was fantastic. Like I don't know if you've ever watched any of the behind the scenes, but Chris Sanders did a lot of revamping of Toothless himself, and that's why he looks a little bit like Stitch, because Chris Sanders also worked on Lilo and Stitch. But the way that they mashed together real world animal anatomy to make like really cool dragons, and especially Toothless, was just awesome. Definitely a point of inspiration for me.
Well, two things. One, this is going to shock some people, but I've never seen a movie called How to Train Your Dragon, and I've never seen Lilo and Stitch.
What?
And I know.
How?
But it's crazy. But the second thing about that is that the only thing I know of those two different properties, don't get me wrong, is that Ohana means family. So
if you had to take anything from Lilo and Stitch, that's a good one. So
okay. Well, I guess I didn't completely fail this exam, but I know I have a lot of things to catch up on in terms of properties known as How to Train Your Dragon, as well as Lilo and Stitch, and maybe some of the other ones. I'm not sure. By the way, Philip Miller chimes in. He says, "Me too. I haven't seen him either." Okay, Philip Miller. That's fine, man. You haven't seen either of those properties?
They are worthwhile films if you ever get a chance. Don't let anyone ever tell you animation's only for kids, because it is certainly not. It's for everybody.
That is a fair point. That is a fair point. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, what would you say are some of your favorite books and or comic books, past or present?
So books, definitely Aragon. The Lord of the Rings, actually, I think even prior to Aragon, was a huge step into fantasy reading for me. Generally, I tend to keep to the fantasy genre. And lately I've been crossing into like some urban fantasy as well, like the October Day series by Seanan McGuire, which has been just a nice interlude between my really large epic fantasy books. Because I've also read Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, and I'm currently dipping my toes into the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. So it's been an adventure. And then let's see, comics. I wasn't. I didn't have as much access to comics when I was a kid. Comic book shops were a little few and far between where I lived, so not as much experience in that. But if it, if it counts, the first one that I actually started collecting was My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. And one of the artists in there, Andy Price, is just he does a lot of fun things with the ponies and puts a lot of like cameo appearances from pop culture into like the background of his work and stuff. So they were always enjoyable to read.
Excellent, excellent. You know, I hear that Care Bears goes well with My Little Pony because of the colors.
I did watch that show when I was a kid.
Did you?
Oh yes.
Okay. Favorite Care Bear? Does one stand out to you, or you think to yourself, "There's too many of them. I just love them all."
Oh no. So I always like the Care Bear cousins, actually. And I'm pretty sure Brightheart was the name of the raccoon. I might be wrong with that, um, but yeah, I like the Care Bear cousins just because like Care Bears are cool, but like the cousins were different types of animals, and I always liked it when they made special appearances. And Brightheart was always like tinkering with something and coming up with ideas and things like that, and I thought that was fun.
Hmm. And in between all that, in the sandwich, you get the gummy bears.
Now that I haven't watched in ages. I think I like started up one episode on Disney Plus just for giggles, and boy, did I have a good giggle about that.
It's not just a candy, ladies and gentlemen. There is a known
Mm-mm.
property known as Gummy Bears, the animated series, I believe. So there you go.
There is early '90s
Gee
Disney
whiz.
animation.
So much to keep up with. By the way, our good friend Philip Miller chimes in. He says, "Okay, I will keep that in mind, Keely, in regards to your book recommendations. I have a huge Puss in Boots, The Last Wish movie poster. Animation in many ways can be far more sincere than any live action show."
Yeah, I can agree with that sentiment for sure. Animation is able to cross boundaries.
Mhm.
Um, we're able to make more metaphorical stories that you don't have to be of a certain race or gender, anything, to relate to a lot of these characters and the struggles that they're going through, whether it's an epic thing or whether it's like even an example like Encanto recently. It's a contained family story, and so you get all shapes and sizes in animation, and I really love it.
I've once again, this is going to shock absolutely no one. I have yet to see Encanto, but I have come across some Encanto Funko Pops where I work.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
those,
those are
and again,
fun.
Funko Pops are everywhere. And Philip Miller
Mhm.
chimes in once again. He says, "Dark Heart was absolutely evil. I remember crying when all Care Gouge kept depleting on the first film."
Yeah, boy, that's reaching way back. I haven't seen that movie in forever, but yeah.
Gee whiz, I feel like we're in one giant nostalgia fest here in the mixer,
Mhm.
even though I don't have one here in the studio. But once again, this is And I Quote, and our guest for this episode is Keely Imai of KeyLime Creations here on set. Make sure you like and share this video with all of your closest friends. If you have any questions for her, comments about anything, let us know in the chat. Let us know. Whether you're watching this live or on the replay, thank you so much for being with us. Keely, when did you decide to become an indie artist?
Um, I mean, being an artist is something I've been my whole life. It was first recommended to me that I could look into selling my artwork when I started going to conventions. Oh, when was my first convention? That's a long time ago. um,
We're dating
I
ourselves here. No, I'm
right, right. I was like, I won't say the exact number of years, but when I was, I think in early high school, and my dad took me to my first con, and he's like, you could do this, like, and that was actually Baltimore Comic Con, and this was like before a bunch of the pop culture stuff and anime cons started to become bigger. um this was an old school industry con, so you had comic book artists sitting there at their table, much like you'll see today, but just maybe in like less of a degree. But at this point they were everywhere. They had books on books of their original art and their comic book cover spreads and pen and ink and all that. And I was so inspired by that. I was like, oh, this is so cool. You get to do this like for real. Like you get to do this as a job. And it's tough. Like over the years, learned it's super tough, a lot of hard work, but boy, does it pay off, just to be able to express yourself that way and be able to relate to other people through your artwork and connect that way has been really special.
Fantastic, fantastic stuff. What would you say are some of the rewards about being an artist?
So a little bit what I just mentioned as far as the personal connection with people. A lot of my work tends to be fan related at the moment. Just because this is I love things that I am inspired by in popular culture, and so I try to put my own spin on them, try to bring a little bit of life into them and special moments, or at least special depictions of those characters as they're special to me. And then seeing other people at cons face to face reacting to that is just so special. And realizing that as an artist, we have impact, even if it doesn't seem like instant, that our work can really hit at the core of people. And, I have done some pieces in the past that have been a little more emotional, like maybe some personal struggles I was going through. And people who saw them were like, wow, I really get that. Like that's something that I was going through. And so we can have a moment where we as humans connect on the same level. It doesn't really matter our total backgrounds or whatever, that moment is when we can make a difference. And heck, even if it's just like saying, oh, that thing is really cool. Like, I love that thing too. And then, being able to nerd out over that is always special to me.
Very true. And nerding out is always a plus.
Yeah.
Seriously. Depending on what the property is that the one person and the other have in common, it's a beautiful thing. But on the
Mhm.
opposite side of the fence, though, what are some of the challenges about being an artist?
Oh, well, challenges, especially in like it's always been a challenge, the business side of it. Um, Old school before the advent of social media and stuff, you had to do a lot of legwork, like literal legwork. You would be walking to studios, knocking on doors, handing them portfolios and being like, please employ me. And or, just you just have to do a lot of phone calls, a lot of mailing, a lot of things like that. Nowadays, you have a little bit of that left over. Some studios still have that approach available, but largely social media is actually the big thing that's been really challenging to keep up with because you want to create, you want to just sit and you just want to draw, like you just want to make stuff and make pretty things and maybe make something that's really on your heart or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like, I got bills to pay. So you need to manage all aspects of your social media. You're your own PR, you're your own social media poster, you're your own finance department, um, all of that. Secretary, CEO, all of it. It's just you. So that's a bit of the hard part. On the artsy side of things, the challenge can be art block. Like if you ever hit a point where you're just like, man, I don't know what to do. Like I have a blank page in front of me and I do not know what I want on there. That can be a struggle sometimes, especially if like outside circumstances are really hard at the time too. Like I just went through having a kid a couple years ago and that rocked my world like I didn't think it would. I expected change for sure, but man, I went through a real dry spell in creating because you're just so focused on something that's totally not related to that at that moment. So yeah, that can be a struggle.
Mm-hmm. Adulting is not always easy.
Yeah.
It really is. And once again, we are speaking with Keely Imai of KeyLime Creations on this episode of And I Quote. Don't forget to like and share this video with all of your closest friends. If you have any questions for her, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Whether you're watching this live or on the replay, thank you so much for being with us. And Philip Miller just chimes in to say 2 words. Tax person. Yeah.
I will highly recommend that if you do want to go into business for yourself as an artist, find a tax person, a tax professional who can help guide you through some of the bigger holes and things that just aren't readily explained on websites and that aren't covered in handbooks and things like that. Just so you're square with the IRS, don't want to upset anybody. Pay your taxes, everyone. So
Mm-hmm. Very important. This portion of And I Quote Financial Advice is brought to you by Keely. No, I'm kidding. Keely's here with us. No, I'm kidding. But with that being said, I do want to share for those who may be watching or listening some examples of Keely's work. Now we have this image here. I believe this is a comic book sketch cover, if I'm not mistaken. But for those of you who may be listening, Keely, what exactly are we looking at here?
So this was actually a commission that I did at GalaxyCon Richmond this past weekend, actually. And
Rock on.
yeah. So this particular client, he, instead of just like letting me use my own paper or whatever, he's like, so I have an idea for you. And he puts down a bunch of blank comic covers and he's like, pick one and just do whatever you want on it. And I'm like, okay. And he randomly, like off the cuff, mentioned the Titans as like Hogwarts students. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. So there we have Cyborg Raven and Beast Boy all in respective houses, and Cyborg showing off his Leviosa, not Leviosa.
I understood that reference. I've seen the movies.
Yes.
That part was funny too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this kind of thing is what I like to do at conventions because I don't have time to sit down and do full color most of the time. Since my chosen medium is colored pencil, that's much more time intensive than something like marker or pen and ink. So I've come to this convention art style that I really like, where I do the monochromatic shading. So as you can see, like each character has their own color and really doesn't go past that. And then the solid line art on top. So
excellent stuff. Goodness gracious. Man,
thank you.
Excellent work. Another example I'd like to share with you. This one even has more color. Goodness gracious. You want to talk colors of the rainbow with the Care Bears and the Gummy Bears times 1,000? Look at this thing. It has tons of colors. But the question is, what are we looking at here?
Okay, so this monster was a commission that someone had contacted me about via Etsy because they saw my Flight of Dragons Gorbash print. And Gorbash is one of the characters from Flight of Dragons. And they were like, so just curious, would you be up for something that's like kind of large scale with multiple characters? I was like, that's Flight of Dragons? Yes. So he actually had a lot of the idea for the layout of the montage himself. But ultimately, we worked together to collaborate the whole layout. And then he let me have creative freedom on how we colored it. And I did explain roughly how the colors would go, just so he would be able to understand roughly what it would look like at the end. I did give him progress shots every now and then, just so he could see the progress and see how it's coming along. But at the ultimately, this will get tattooed on his leg. He hasn't sent me any pictures yet, but this is like a big project for a tattoo artist. So I'll just wait, even if it's like years down the line. It's like, if I don't hear back from him soon, it's okay. So at the top, we have the blue tree of antiquity. Mm-hmm. That's the tree that kind of helps set forth the quest in the movie. Mm-hmm. Then on, I guess, as I'm looking at the screen on the left, we have the characters Gorbash, the dragon, and Peter, who's the main protagonist of the film. They actually end up getting fused in the film. So that's why they're together. And then they have symbols of some of the other characters with them. On the right, we have the ever imposing Omadon. He is the evil wizard that they're fighting against because he represents dark magic and all the negative magic that exists in the world. And he's just trying to take over. He's just like, mankind is going to give in to my type of magic and they'll all destroy each other and like, ha ha ha. Voiced by the ineffable James Earl Jones.
Darth Vader himself. Okay.
It's really fantastic. But then his dragon is Briog, and that's the black and red dragon beside him. In the front, we have Sir Neville, another character who helps join them on the quest and helps fight at the end against Omadon. Then at the bottom, is a little, just a little tableau of Peter at the end, where I guess the movie came out in the 1980s, so I'm going to say spoiler. If you don't want spoilers, tune out now. They defeat Omadon, and he takes his crown. The crown is then presented to the good wizards at the end of the film as proof that Omadon has been defeated. So yeah, this is just kind of a whole little layout of the entire thing, and all done in colored pencil.
Yeah, because Philip Miller was chiming in. He says, "Was this indeed a color pencil drawing?" Wow.
Yes, this is an 11 by 17 colored pencil drawing.
Well, there you go. That's what Philip Miller was asking.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Goodness gracious. And another image I'd like to bring up here for those who may be watching or listening. Stickers. I believe these are stickers. But what exactly are these stickers, and why do they look so familiar?
Well, if we have any viewers today that are from Maryland, or at least from the surrounding areas, you will be well familiar with our lovely Maryland flag. So this was something that I did on a whim years ago. Actually, the design in the center of the pony was the very first one I did when I did pony conventions in Maryland, because I was like, oh, this will be cool. Like, Maryland bronies will dig this. And absolutely they did. And so I started to make other designs for fun, like the T-Rex and then the Star Wars ones, because Maryland's flag, we'll see it either just the flag, or we'll see a lot of crabs, because Maryland and crabs, crab shapes, and they'll just put the flag on anything. So I was like, well, heck, where's my nerd symbols at? So I went ahead and put them on the stickers. So we have ponies, dinosaurs, dragons. I just added the D20 and the mythosaur from Star Wars, and then the Rebel and Imperial. Oh, and actually, oddly enough, not pictured is the Star Trek symbol, which I have right here in front of me.
There it is.
This is the one that got super popular during Farpoint, actually, and I'm not sure if you bought one of these from me, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. So it just sports some Maryland nerd pride.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. And I did buy I believe it was the Mandalorian and the Rebel Alliance.
There you go, Star Wars.
I didn't get the Star Trek. I'm sorry. I did become a Trekkie during the lockdown, believe it or not.
But there's a lot of episodes to watch, so
billions of Star Trek. And
did you start with the OG Star Trek, or did you go just head into TNG?
I went into, now granted, and this is right before I became a Trekkie, I did see the J.J. Abrams rebooted trilogy he did in theaters, and I thought those were cool, those were fun, but I wasn't on the Star Trek bandwagon at that point.
They were cool sci-fi movies.
But during the lockdown, I bought the 10-movie set that contained the original series movies and the TNG crew movies.
Nice.
And I went back, and I remember watching one or two, but I hadn't seen them in a long time. So I went back and watched some of the original series movies. I didn't watch Star Trek: The Motion Picture. It's too boring. And then I made the mistake of watching The Final Frontier, and I realized this is ridiculous. This is not. No. And then I went, somewhat I went backwards. I watched the TNG movies, and then I went back to the TOS movies, not the TV series. I just want to make that perfectly clear.
Right.
But when I watched Generations, the passing of the torch between TOS and TNG, I thought, it was all right, not great. And then First Contact came in and knocked me on my keister and punched me in the face and knocked me out. And I thought, this is Star Trek. This is something I can get with, because First Contact is boss. It is my favorite Star Trek movie of all the movies, all 13 movies. Is by far my favorite.
An anthology of Star Trek.
It's an anthology. So of all 13 movies, which does count the Kelvin timeline that J.J. Abrams put together with his 3 films, of all 13 here, Keely, First Contact is number 1, hands down. Love it, love it, love it. Resistance is futile, which it is, because that movie is so flippity flip good. And if you've never seen and someone said this on a thread on, I believe it was Rotten Tomatoes. I know sometimes Rotten Tomatoes gets it wrong. They didn't get it wrong with the rating for this movie, though. They actually got it right. But the comment was, whether you've been watching this series forever or you're brand new to the series, this is a great intro. This is a great point to enter into the Star Trek fandom by watching First Contact. And I thought, that it's perfect, because it tells you how people, basically how Starfleet Academy got started, why the ships are designed the way they are, how they developed everything from Zefram Cochrane's history of meeting the aliens, and this not going to go into spoilers, but it's so good. It's so good. The score is great. The visual effects hold up 25, 30 some odd years later. The cast is beyond perfect. I mean, I've had the pleasure of meeting LeVar Burton, bless that man's heart.
So cool.
But I thought of him more as the host of Reading Rainbow.
Yeah, right. And that's what we grew up with.
Long before he was Geordie LaForge. But now that I see him as Geordie LaForge in the Trek films, I'm like, you know what? He's good. He's really good in this. I mean, granted, I still remember you as the host of Reading Rainbow.
Yeah.
But Geordie LaForge is a nice, part 2 of your career. Which in a way it kind of was for LeVar. I don't know how you want to speak on that, LeVar. I know you're watching. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. But it's great. I love. Now I'm going back. I haven't done it yet, but I have TNG season 1 on Blu-ray. I have Star Trek Picard season 1 on DVD. So I got to go back and watch all that because I love Picard. Love Patrick Stewart. He is one of God's gifts to mankind.
Yes.
Because the guy plays Picard, but then he also plays Xavier in the X-Men movies, which is even more awesome because as soon as we learned, and this is maybe you're thinking of this, maybe not, but when the news came out that they were going to put together a live action X-Men movie, I thought, well, it has to be Patrick Stewart as Xavier.
Yeah.
It has to be. There's no one I can really think of that can play that role. And they ended up listening to the people because they ended up casting him.
Yeah, he was a fantastic choice. And definitely one of those actors that he'd been acting forever. He was a big stage actor and, acting in Britain and everything. But the American pop culture didn't really start recognizing him until he started appearing in things like that. Same with Ian McKellen and Alan Rickman.
Yeah,
Alan Rickman
Galaxy
wasn't
Quest.
really known until Galaxy Quest, and then he became infamous in Harry Potter as Severus Snape. So just people who had really impressive careers before and are amazing artists and actors. And it's kind of funny because all of us Americans were late on that bandwagon. We're like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. And then the Brits are like, yeah, we've known about them for years.
Where have you been?
Right.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful stuff. And all these actors are wonderful. And if you haven't checked out any of their work, please do. And Star Trek, listen, I grew up on the wars, not the Trek. But now everyone should realize, and I think we've known this for years, it's just it took me a little bit to catch up. You can like both. You can be a fan of both the wars and the Trek and still enjoy yourself because there are plenty of books about Star Trek. There are plenty of books about Star Wars. And it's great because that means you have variety.
Absolutely. And I mean, at this point, we have so much spin-off material. You could pick one or the other or both and dip your toes in however far you want to go. And it's rewarding either way. So.
I mean, for me personally, I don't foresee a problem. It's great. You can remember that meme on the interwebs that's been circling for years? The little girl looking at her family. Why not both?
Oh, yeah.
You remember that little girl? I mean, it just makes sense. Why not both?
Does.
Why not just choose both? Because
Mhm.
they're two very different flavors, Star Trek and Star Wars, but you get something out of each property.
Yes.
I mean,
Definitely more like the epic high fantasy vibe out of Star Wars, and then the more some of our more ethical, moral dilemmas in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ethics, accepting people for who they are, accepting more species and people and different individuals and all that kind
Right.
of stuff.
My first exposure was watching The Next Generation when it was all on Netflix. And
I wish it was still there.
I know. It made it so easy. I mean, I think they brought it all over to Paramount Plus at this point. Either that or
Yeah, because it's distributed by Paramount, but I don't have Paramount Plus.
yeah. But either way, getting through all those seasons and the different character arcs and everything. Season 1 is a little rough, not gonna lie, because they were just setting the stage for everyone and kind of settling into their boots, so to speak. But as the seasons go on, there's just so much good stuff, and then funny too. It's not always doom and gloom. It's not always super serious. It's no, here's an episode where everyone pretends they're in a Sherlock Holmes novel.
Data was dressed up as a detective at one point. He's wearing the hat and I believe it's the coat or the robe or something like that.
Yeah, he at least has the hat, and I think he has the pipe.
The pipe, thank you. Yes. Doesn't he have an 8x10 print at his booth that Brent Spiner signs for that all the time? Probably. I've met Brent Spiner.
I have yet to see Brent Spiner at a con. He was supposed to be at Farpoint,
Yeah,
not
then he
this
had
past year, but the year before, and then he had to pull out
he had
for
to
other
switch.
engagements. But
Mhm.
yeah, I was like, dang. So I do see a lot of the cast of TNG making their con rounds though, and I'm super excited because even
Of
at GalaxyCon, Jonathan Frakes was there, as Riker,
yeah,
and Gates
Gates
McFadden
McFadden.
was there.
Big ones.
Uh, LeVar Burton will actually be at AwesomeCon in June in
Yes.
DC.
Yes. And also a
So,
GalaxyCon Nana visitor was there too.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, they're really starting to make their way around again. I think in large part because of Picard, because of
Picard's a big
the
thing
show,
because it's a
because they make
reunion.
cameos.
Yep.
Um,
Reunion.
and that's been a lot of fun to watch too. I hope you really enjoy the first season of Picard. I thought that was fantastic. So
Well, I love Patrick Stewart, so
yeah, it's
I
hard
mean,
not to.
in a fan way though. So
Oh sure.
just to be clear, so looking forward to watching that. But once again, we're going off on an incredible tangent of nerd
Yes.
stuff here on And I Quote, which we are speaking with Keely Imai of KeyLime Creations. Don't forget to like and share this video with all of your closest friends. If you have any questions about her work or anything else that's going on, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Because Lord knows we've gone on a tangent about Star Trek versus Star Wars. And by the way, it's not a fight. It's they can live
No.
cohesively, okay?
We can shake hands. We can shake hands on this. We don't have to fight.
We can do this. We can say, may the force be with you. We can say, this is the way. I mean, it's okay. There's no problem.
Mhm.
Because this is the way, which by the way, The Mandalorian is freaking awesome.
Yeah, I've finally
Love it.
started to catch up. Like I was just low
Yes.
on time between cons, and I haven't watched the latest episode, but
This
I've
week's
made it through
episode will
episode
just
3.
this latest episode is just going to put a giant smile on your face.
Good,
You're
good,
gonna
good.
put a
I'm
big
glad.
smile. A big, big smile is going to be on everyone's face. If you have yet to see any episodes of The Mandalorian, which is currently streaming, I believe, on Disney Plus, hashtag not a sponsor, watch the show, binge watch the heck out of it because it is some of the best, like, original Star Wars storytelling we've seen. I mean, granted, yes, there are familiar elements, don't get me wrong, but the Mandalorian is its own character and he can do whatever he wants. So basically, they have
Mhm.
creative freedom to do what they want with this property, which is great because you don't have to connect to every other character.
Mhm.
So
No, I love this vignette structure that
love
they're
it.
approaching with Star Wars. Where
Love it.
like, yeah, I mean, the main cast of the Skywalker saga is there in the background somewhere. But we get to look at just again, like you were saying, individual lives. But maybe the residual effects of what happened in the Skywalker saga bleeding into all these characters' lives in different ways. And I think that's really cool.
Hmm.
So
It is. It's a great time to be a fan, for
mhm.
those of you may be wondering. But with that being said, any other special memories for you of being at conventions, whether you are there as a vendor or as an attendee?
Let's see. I mean, one of my special moments was actually at BronyCon, believe it or not. Like My Little Pony Friendship is Magic actually got me back into drawing and going to conventions after I'd been in a slump for a long time. And so I actually started to attend BronyCon when it was still happening in 2015.
Mhm.
And that year I was selling, but I managed to meet one of my like all-time favorite artists that I'd been following on DeviantArt for like a decade. Okay. Like this is old school fangirling that I was doing. Like, I knew you way back then. And because she lives out in California. So I was like, I'm never gonna meet her. Like, she'll just be this far off figure that I'll never get the chance to say hi to ever. And there she was here in Baltimore. And I was like, heck yeah. So I got to talk with her a little bit and we've maintained some contact over the years. And it's just been really cool. So that's been one really neat thing. And then that same year, I had, just as far as memorable goes, a WWF show commissioned me to make a pony out of the host, like to make a pony character for the host.
Oh, boy.
And so, and they filmed me while I was like drawing it. And then it was on a little segment.
Was it Monday Night Raw or SmackDown?
No, it was
Pay-per-view?
this shoot, Corey Graves
Mhm.
was the host.
Mhm.
And it was like these little 20-minute episodes where he would go around to different fandoms and
Huh.
different things in general, like not necessarily like nerd stuff, but anything that kind of has a niche fandom and approach it from like a WWE standpoint and like
Interesting.
and kind of help just little exposés. And And it was really cool because it wasn't satirical, like, he wasn't poking fun at them. I felt like, actually, by the end of the episode, everything was super respectful, and, he was also really nice. Like, he was super nice.
That's good.
But, oh, shoot, man, why can't I remember the name? Because it was so long ago, but by the end of the episode, they unveiled his pony character. Like, I don't know if he still has the drawing to this day, but it was a pony covered in tattoos. Like, it was a lot of fun. So that was pretty memorable. But I also got to meet John Delancey and
Cute.
have him
Yeah.
sign one of my drawings.
Ooh, cute. There
Yeah.
you go. There you go.
Yeah, he was super chill, and I actually attended a reading of his too, where he read some poetry, and it was just fantastic. Like, I loved that whole evening. Was super cool. So
Wow. That's incredible. In other words, you just went ahead and make it so. You made it.
yeah.
You made it so. Sorry, that was my poor attempt at an impression of our good friend Captain Jean-Luc
Hmm.
Picard, which is
That wasn't bad.
so
That wasn't bad.
so many unique names in the Star Trek universe. I'm telling you, like
Mhm.
Jean-Luc Picard. Like I just call him Picard because I'm just so used to it. But his full name is Jean-Luc, and I'm thinking
Yeah.
that's a name I don't think. But hey, that's one of the best things about Star Trek. You never know what you're going to learn.
Yeah.
But which is crazy, right? It really is. And with
Mhm.
that being said, I want to give you a heads up that this episode of And I Quote is indeed powered by our good friends over there at Poddex. Now, Poddex are unique interview questions as well as episode starting prompts located within the palm of your very own hand. So whether you are a new podcaster or existing broadcaster looking to have more, or looking to grow your audience, I should say, or get more engagement, you're going to want to check out poddex.com. Make sure you use the code Ryan10. That's RYAN10, Ryan10, for 10% off your first order. You're not going to want to miss out on that opportunity. With that being said, Keely, Poddex wants to know, what's the first impression that you want to give people?
Um, what's the first impression that I want to give people as an artist or as a person or
In general.
both? Um,
In general. Or anything. You can
just
interpret it however you will.
okay. Well, just in general, that I just want to be a person who wants to see other people, like, to understand and to connect with people, whether it's through fandom or whether it's through something I draw for them or whether it's something that I drew that was personal for me. That we really don't have much in this life besides community and connection with people. Everything else can fade and go by the wayside, but ultimately, like, the people that have your back, and knowing that other people are capable of seeing you for you, not kind of everyone's got preconceived notions,
Mhm.
right? Sure, but I just always want to be someone that acknowledges the person in front of me. I guess this is kind of a weird esoteric way to say it, but um, that's kind of the impression I'd like to give people.
Yes! That's awesome!
I would agree with that. Thanks for chiming in there, guys. With that being, yeah, Philip Miller chimes in. He says, "I bought this deck of pod decks. I just have not opened them yet." Well, Philip, open up the deck of cards, man.
I even like that little example that you showed. Like, if you had 3 apps on your phone or something, it's like,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have thought of that question.
Well, listen, there's all that and more. All you got to do is visit our good friends over there at poddex.com and use that promo code. You get 10% off your order. So there you go. Plug. So if you had to lose one of your 5 senses, which one would you give up?
Ooh. Um, I I don't know. Smell, maybe? I think because obviously, like, eyes are pretty important to me. Sound, because I love music, and I feel like, I don't know, just things are pretty rich with sound. But smell, I already don't have a great sense of smell. So losing that, I probably would be okay with because I'm like, I've survived this far. It's fine. So,
There you go. Bonus question. One of your favorite songs is what?
ooh, um, hmm. shoot, I just had that moment where you're just like, you hit a
Mm.
wall and you're just like, all the songs in your life, and you just like, you got to pick one though, just one.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, you know what? I will go with The Last Goodbye. That was sung by Billy Boyd at the end of the final Hobbit movie. In The Hobbit.
Sure.
It was a song that he wrote himself, and it still resonated very strongly with the themes of the movie. And then as the final Lord of the Rings / Hobbit movie that Peter Jackson would be a part of, like, it was just a very fitting end to that. But also, it's just so beautiful because whether you are like, life is a journey, and every chapter at some point will come to some kind of end, and to keep the song is very encouraging with like, I'm going on a journey, but I will keep those important to me in my heart, and you'll be with me the whole way. And like, I'm going forward, but I'm keeping y'all with me. And that's just, it's just really special to me as someone who's been in a lot of different life circumstances, a lot of different circles of people. And, each one is very special to me and contributes to who I am today. So, The Last Goodbye is it's just beautiful. If you haven't heard it, please go look it up on like Spotify or something. # not a sponsor, just a fan.
Right. We've had one, yes. But what about second breakfast? We've already had it. We've had one, yes. What about second breakfast? I don't think he knows about that one. And then Philip Miller chimes in. He says, okay. I open them up when it comes to pod decks, and the first card that comes out says, what's something weird you do before bedtime? That's a question for the books, isn't it? Something weird you do before bedtime. Any thoughts on that, Keely, or would you rather pass?
I mean, the things that I do before bedtime aren't really that weird, I guess. Like, I have a bowl of ice cream.
There you go.
Some people like avoid sugar, but like I can totally pass out after having like coffee.
Oh.
Like, it's crazy. So so there are times like I'm gonna come home, I'm gonna, like, after my day job, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna do some work, I'm gonna sip some coffee, and I'm gonna do some stuff, and then I'm just out. Like, I'm done in like 5 minutes. So that I guess it's weird.
There you go. Thanks for bringing up another question from our friendly neighborhood sponsor known as Poddex here, Philip Miller. We appreciate you, man. And also, Philip Miller's on fire today. He says, Keely, the fact that people like you pick up a pencil and actually draw on paper is something that can never be duplicated on a screen.
Aw, well, thank you. It's taken a long time. Even the works behind me, the works that I have flown around in my head, it's just a culmination of years of practice, and just also a culmination of my experiences as a person. It's like I was saying earlier with The Last Goodbye, you collect, like, every one of us is a culmination of our past and our present and what we're absorbing from that. And so, so a lot of my visual style is taken from my childhood, mixed with also an appreciation of real world animal anatomy and things that exist on our planet right now. So it's something I'm very passionate about. And then whenever I'm drawing characters for people, I like to infuse a little bit of personality into how they're being portrayed. So that's not just like, yeah, it's cool, you can do a character in a contrapposto pose, the shoulders down one way, the hips the another, and like, you can pose characters, but can you also put that little spark of life into them? And that's something it's a challenge that I enjoy undertaking. And yeah, I mean, there might be things that can come close to duplicating what artists do, but at the end of the day, like, it all is all about the human element and what we bring to the table as people, and then connecting with other people. So
fair point.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
this is the way.
Truly is. What you just said, I mean, This is the way. Isn't that right, Armor? Yes, it is. I can't help it. I can't help it. What Poddex wants to know, what was the most memorable class you've ever taken in school or college?
Okay, so I had like 3 classes that I can link together for this because they were all taught by the same professor.
Hmm.
Um, and I tell people this all the time when I speak about my art school experience, because I only had 1 year at art school.
Mhm.
But this professor made a huge impact, just in the way that he approached things, and he was he tried to be very objective when he was approaching our assignments and things. So, like, someone's skill level, it didn't matter if you were the best artist in the room or, the one who was struggling a little bit. He's like, "If I see that you put effort in and you were trying to get the assignment done, like, that's what I want." And it made a lot of people mad because sometimes, like, they try to do things that weren't part of the assignment. They'd look pretty, but he's like, "That's cool, but that's not what I told you to do." Like, and they would get so mad. So he was really good at, like, poking people's ego, but also, he had this thing that he was very passionate about called active learning. And it was to try to find ways that while you were sitting in a classroom to engage your brain, like to really not just sit there and mindlessly absorb, like, just have it fed to you like you're being hypnotized, but like, okay, one example he gave was human proportions. The classic human proportions are such and such, whatever. But then he had someone get up on a table and demonstrate, like, how to visualize that and how to look at it on a real person and how to judge different proportions on a person based on those things. So he's like, "See, like, this is active learning. We're not just sitting at a table talking about it, like, we're actually doing something." So that, and he was also Czechoslovakian, spoke with a very heavy accent, but he always described himself as a Czechoslovakian Texan because he had immigrated to the United States through Texas. So he spent some time there. I never really caught the Texan accent at all, but he always came in like, this is a dude in his 60s at the time, superb sculptor, but just, it just would tell things like they wore a beaver skin hat, didn't really care, what what his ratings were on, like, Rate My Professor. He's like, "I'm just gonna give it to you straight." So that I think was the best thing because and he was always telling stories to try and relate it back to his lesson and like something from his past that he would tie back in. So those were very entertaining classes. Where I learned a lot. Like, clearly I remember a lot. Yeah, that was good.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Once again, we're talking with Keely of KeyLime Creations here in this episode of And I Quote. Don't forget to like and share this episode with all of your closest friends. If you have any questions for it, let us know in the chat. Let us know in the comments. Whether you're watching this live or on the replay, thank you so much for being with us. And by the way, an individual by the name of Lizard says, "Love KeyLime Creations." I wonder who Lizard could be.
Thank you. I don't know, but I also love lizards in general. So hey, right back at you.
I mean, I'm trying to think here. Are you just Lizard in general, or are you the Lizard, the villain from the Spider-Man franchise? Anyone remember the Lizard? You remember that? That was his first villain, actually, in the animated the '90s animated series. I know there's been a lot of iterations of this Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, but in the '90s on Fox Kids, that's when life was good.
Yeah.
Spider-Man was on, and that was the first villain he went up against, which was the Lizard. And by the way, Philip Miller says, "Good share, Keely. 2 thumbs up."
Thank you.
Rock on. He's just digging it. I mean, Philip Miller's having a good time, honestly. But here's something that
Appreciate you joining in.
I know, and we thank all of you for joining in. Whether you're watching this live on the replay, thank you. We greatly appreciate it. Keely, the people at Poddex desperately want to know, if you were a bartender, which famous person would you like to serve?
I was gonna say Harrison Ford, but then I think I'd be too intimidated.
He seems like he seems like a nice guy.
He just comes across really gruff, but I don't know if I could like take that right off the bat.
So much for Han Solo.
I love Han Solo.
Or Indiana Jones, for that matter. Because there's new movies coming out this summer. Congratulations, Harrison Ford. Look forward to seeing how you ride off into the sunset with your final Indiana Jones appearance.
Oh lordy, that'll be so much fun. And I love that they're like riding along with this whole thing with the age thing.
Because the movie's a bit of a time travel story, if not a flashback, a bunch of sequences.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The only reason I mentioned Harrison Ford, like, I think that would be fun because I know what one of his favorite whiskeys. I know what one of his
Whiskeys.
favorite whiskeys is. So saw it late night one time on like Jimmy Fallon. So, but anyway, let's see. Another celeb though. Oh, Josh Groban.
Hmm.
I'll say that. I've loved his music forever. He actually just got I think it's either still ongoing, um, but he's currently on Broadway as Sweeney Todd.
Oh.
And but he's got a fantastic voice. And I've been to one of his concerts, and the man just like, he's another artist who's all about community and really in reinvesting in that, in like the lives of young people through his influence. And so I just love to be able to serve him a drink and like just talk about that kind of stuff, you know.
Sure.
So
Maybe he could sing you a song too.
that would have me melt. I'd have to like clock out and be like, guys, I'm done. Like I'm just gonna sit here and listen, but I'm not working right now.
I'm just gonna have stars in my eyes. I'm just gonna stare at him like this.
Exactly.
I'm gonna put my hands up, like this
Yep.
on the bar table. See, look at this.
Yep.
Just look right into his eyes. Sorry, I'm just giving you a strange example. By the way, Phil Miller says if he was a bartender and he had to serve somebody, he'd go with Vincent Price.
That would be impressive. I would just love to hear the man speak in person. Like, I know he's rest in peace, Vincent Price, but man, that voice, memorable.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I do want to take this opportunity to thank Keely Imai of KeyLime Creations for being our guest on this episode of And I Quote. Keely, thank you so much for being with us. We do greatly appreciate it. Where can the person watching or listening to this follow you on social media and everything that you have coming up? What do you got?
All right. Well, I mean, I have several different social media sites, but the ones that I use the most are definitely Instagram and Facebook. At both, I am KeyLime Creations. And then I have my personal website at https:// you guys get the idea. KeelyImai.art is my personal website. And then I am also going to start streaming again on Twitch. So if you're interested in watching me create artwork live on camera, then within the next couple of months, hopefully I'll be back on. My handle there is KeyLime Keely. And yeah, most places you can either find me KeyLime Creations or KeyLime Keely.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Keely. Appreciate it. I will talk to you in just a bit. My name is Ryan of Nerd Culture. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. Also, check out all the other shows that we're doing on this channel. And also, the Comic-Con Tour 2023 rolls on. We are going to be at our next destination, which is Fan Expo in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is a city of brotherly love. It's the city that loves you back. It's always sunny in Philadelphia. At least when we're there. So Fan Expo is coming up on June 2nd through the 4th. Make sure you come by and say hi to us. We're going to be walking the convention floor, saying hi to all the vendors, a lot of artists, a lot of great people are going to be there. Some of the biggest celebrity names in the business are going to be in the house, including the cast of Smallville. Sam Raimi is going to be in the building. I know a few other members of Sam Raimi's family are going to be there. I don't know. Maybe they haven't been announced yet, but maybe Bruce Campbell will show up. I don't know. I mean, if Ash shows up, I think the roof's going to blow off that house. But lots of great people are going to be there, so definitely check it out. Also, we are this close, Keely. We're this close to hitting 1,000 subscribers on our channel.
Woo!
Once we do,
yeah.
Yes, thank you. Once we do, we're gonna have the most electrifying party that Dwayne the Rock Johnson, a good friend of mine, and YouTube.com have ever seen in our lives. I'm just making that first part up. Wish you would, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. So make sure you tell your friends about us. Make sure they like and share our videos. Subscribe to our channel, because once we hit 1,000, we're going to throw a big party. We're going to have special returning guests. We're also going to we're going to have special giveaways for our audience in the chat. So Keely, you might want to chime in on that one.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. Lots of great things are coming your way very, very, very soon. But in the meantime, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, smash that notification bell so you get notified of when our new videos go up. And in the meantime, stay healthy, stay strong, stay safe. And remember, life is better when reading. Take a look.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Sweet dreams deep lies tell me inside my mind. Chance my truth, twist the past, my memories are fading fast. Am I still missed? Who do you want me to be? Am I still
Choose high-flying action. Choose death-defying escapes. Choose spine-tingling thrills. Choose nail-biting intrigue. Now's your chance to choose the adventure. The Captain Hawkland Adventures. Available on Amazon.com.
Secrets. Trust. Worth. The bond between souls intertwined within otherworldly intrigue. Michaela Jade brings forth the Elite Warrior series, a collection of dark fantasy romance novels set in a twisted world where power lusts in the hearts of men and devotion seduces the souls of women. Warrior's Secret. Warrior's Trust. And Warrior's Worth. Available now at authormichaelajade.com.
Author Cindy Kep is writing on the edge. Books include Remnant in the Stars, The Loudest Actions, Lines of Succession, Mindstorm, Condemned Courier, the Yerushalayim series, and Animal Eye. Find author Cindy Kep at CKOEPP.com today.
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.